You can't mark a date and believe that that day you can turn it on. It's not about the date. It's about the commitment to yourself. It's about dating your purpose. It's about marrying yourself to your goals. It's about realizing that there is no one coming to save you but you. You have to be willing to put in the work. You must be willing to walk into success. You must be able to run past doubt. You must be able to go through the barbed wire of self-doubt and deprecating words that you have placed over yourself and tried to play it off like it was a joke, when in reality you truly believe that you don't deserve things. It's time now for you to speak life over yourself.
Losing. Most of you hear losing and it makes you cringe, it makes you afraid, you fear being embarrassed, you fear being judged, you fear looking like an idiot in front of a bunch of people that won't matter to you in 5 years. But here's the thing, being willing to fail, being willing to lose, will create such a competitive advantage for you because most people can't do it. Most people can't be seen falling on their face. So our options are to stay the same or to actually be willing to fail.
This is your time. You have greatness in you, and everything that happens to you, I've come to know. Some things happen to you, some things happen for you.
And that is what I do. And that is what you can do too. If you have something to change, if you want to change something, change it. Change it now.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Soulrocker podcast. And today's guest is Celeste-Turk, also known as Celestial Fit on Instagram. Hi, Celeste. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm really excited to have you on the show today. I've been following you for a while on Instagram, so I am super excited. And so normally I do have people introduce themselves, but I'm really excited to just kind of like, share a little bit about, I know, and of course you can add to it, but you're an NPC competitor. You are a personal development mindset coach, specifically in food freedom. Celeste is a mentor, a certified counselor. She has her BA in psychology. She's an author. And she's also a host on her podcast, Confessions of a Bikini Pro. So
yes,
super awesome. Yeah, love it. So I guess we'll dive right in. And I'm a little bit curious, first of all, in your background, like what got you into psychology and like fitness, and how did you tie those kind of together?
Well, I think it came from a personal journey, honestly. Like experiencing the struggle of falling into disordered eating and negative body image and a lot of self-criticism and judgment, and then tie into that bodybuilding and having a negative experience in my first show. After the show anyways, like my rebound was really bad, and then I wanted to prove to myself that I could compete and do it healthily, mentally, and I did exactly that. I went and competed again, and then launched my podcast in 2018 after I became obsessed with the sport and realized that the personal development work that I was doing for general population within my fitness coaching business was very applicable to bodybuilders and competitors. And since I was already in a psychology program at the time, I was like, I'm just going to apply this to competitors, and changed my entire niche from like online fitness coaching that was more so mindset and personal development based. Honestly, I was no longer really passionate about fitness coaching. I would say I was passionate, but not at the level of which I knew would be sustainable. And what was really my calling was the psychology. So that's why I had changed my major from dietetics to psychology, and then went after psychology, went on to clinical mental health counseling, because I really, I guess you could say I exploded in the niche of competitors and the fitness industry in general, like even non-competitors, with the mental health work that I offered, because it's not highly addressed, nor are the people addressing it generally like well versed in it or excited about it the way that I was and am. So that's kind of how the two worlds came combined. It was very natural.
Wow, that's so amazing. Because yeah, it's like I feel like no one out there is doing what you're doing. So yeah, I just think that you're like some other women who are taking, maybe living like PEDs, some women who have better genetics, but it's not many in the, like, it's not, not very many women have superior genetics, and like on a large scale. So, structure also matters a lot. And something that I want to bring into a little bit is like the body dysmorphia, and is there a background on that, and where does it come from, according to like what you have experienced and what personally. I think I really struggled with that the most in the years that I started fitness. It's like I was going for like, oh, I want to be healthy and in the gym and eating better. And, I lost weight, but then I found myself kind of stuck in like that body dysmorphia that I've never experienced in my life.
Yeah. So I remember in your episode about your own journey, how it kind of evolved with you, where you're like, okay, now I'm experiencing this, it's not enough. Now I lost the weight, but I want more. Now I want to be muscular. Now I want to be better in this way. Maybe I'll compete. And it can definitely play a role. And a lot of that, like you already identified, came from environment. Like, what are you seeing on a consistent basis? And if we're seeing something that aligns with an identity we've given ourselves, maybe that's fitness coach, maybe it's fitness influencer, maybe it's the fit person in our family, because we're all given identities as well, then we want to uphold that in some way, because it protects us. It makes us part of a community. It allows us to stay connected to people, and we need that. So that plays a big role in it alone, just your environment and how you identify yourself and what standards come with that identity. So like if you believe in order to be, is something I see a lot, if you believe you need to be shredded to be a good coach or to attract business, you're going to judge yourself the moment you maybe lose a line or a vein isn't there or pop in. And so it can really play a role in how you perceive your value, because it has been, as you also said, reinforced. So that's kind of the next piece of this, is the reinforcements we give ourselves or we allow others to give us definitely play a role. Now, reinforcements can be positive and negative. This is a little bit tricky to understand. So there's like negative reinforcements means you're taking something away to encourage the behavior. So for example, like if you wanted to go running and that's your goal, and you start running every day of the week, a mile at least, and after a month, a negative reinforcement could be that if I do that, then I will hire a house cleaner to clean my house. So you actually remove the task of needing to clean your house. So it's very difficult to understand, but by removing the task to clean your house, maybe it frees up time to relax and get a foot massage after all the running. So that's like an example of a negative reinforcement. Positive reinforcement would be something like get yourself new running shoes. So not to take it too off tangent, but just so people understand what I'm saying when I'm saying this, but it's like if you are constantly being reinforced or reinforcing things like weight loss or weight gain or food decisions, or maybe other people make comments like you shouldn't be eating that, you should be eating this, or wow, you're making these associations between your body looking a certain way and you maybe restricting certain foods. Our brain creates these shortcuts so easily as a way to serve us, but it's not always serving. So that plays a role too, is our associations and the stories we tell ourselves about the choices we make. Oftentimes this is why someone will be like, I'll just get back on prep. It's not the prep necessarily that got them the results. It was the feeling of being in control, or the routine, or the structure, or executing daily that they miss. So we just create these associations and think that's what we need. And then I guess the last thing I would say, as far as body image goes, is it's fairly natural that in any physique-based sport, so this goes for like swimming, gymnastics, jockeys, things like that, where wrestling, especially things of that nature, especially if there's like a weigh-in type thing going on, you're going to find a higher amount or higher percentage of people affected by disorder eating behaviors. And elite athletes just express this more than their gym counterparts, specifically with bodybuilding. So I just wanted to share that, by choosing to be in this industry or this sport, and especially competing to meet certain criteria or existing to meet an Instagram standard that's currently being perpetuated and rewarded because everyone's reposting this or everyone's trying to look like this girl or this guy, then it's going to dictate or maybe influence in some way the way you feel you need to be in order to receive acceptance, which is something we want in our lives, if that is clearly said. I kind of ranted there a little bit, but hopefully that answers the question.
No, absolutely. You did an amazing job because you definitely brought up some really, really good points that I'm like having to process here. Because it's like there's so much psychological aspect of it that it's like, wow. And speaking of body dysmorphia, men also struggle with this too. And how do you think that is different from like women?
So what they find with men is men will be more likely to have muscle dysphoria, which is just a branch of body dysmorphia, because there's various like expressions of body dysmorphia. There's like body dysmorphia is generally actually related to how we see our face and our facial structure, but then it's also like how we perceive our body, feel in our body, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a distorted view of ourselves. So with men, a lot of the times they find that it's like they want to be more muscular. They're never big enough, never lean enough. Funny because this happens to females in competing too, or the fitness industry.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not exclusive, but I would say, men generally struggle more with that. And the other thing too is, I think a lot of times men are promoted or supported or maybe seemingly given better opportunities based on how their body is looking. Like we've seen the health at every size movement and the body acceptance movement generally only geared to females, with the exception of like dad bod, which was trending,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it goes both ways, that there's acceptance and there's not acceptance for certain things. But just from like a male versus female perspective, both struggle. And a lot of times men are just not treated as though they had struggles because they're expected to be strong and handle it. And they're usually discouraged from sharing their emotions, or less likely to, whereas women are more likely to share it. So even if statistically there's less men who struggle with it, it doesn't mean that men aren't struggling. And I like to drive that point home because that's true of pretty much any mental disorder. Women maybe express higher amounts of particular things, but that's because they're more likely to be talking about it, reporting it, and actually being assessed for it. Men aren't as likely to go to a therapist and get assessed,
Yeah, absolutely. And often like what I've found is that, for example, in males, and I don't know, I guess if we can tie this together, but like, and they find an identity is based on like sports, and if and when that maybe stops, then they kind of end up finding like fitness, whether it's bodybuilding or any other form of fitness, and or even based it on like aesthetics, and then that becomes like their new identity. And that's kind of like where it's like self-work, is where like one has to kind of really dig into at that point, because that all kind of ties in together with like body, like the body image situation.
Yes, I'm so happy you brought that up, because that is so true. Like so many men will leave their sport, or maybe they always wanted to be a professional athlete or an elite athlete of some sort, or they had this dream for their whole life, so they pursue fitness as a way to like satisfy that, and then their identity really can be wrapped up in that. And I think that goes back to the identity point of like how we see ourselves. And men can also be, men and women, but like you take a male who was once an athlete and like maybe a star athlete at that, he could be very competitive. So when you go into like something like fitness and it becomes maybe a more internally competitive sport where you're really trying to beat your best self over and over again, it can be very heavy. And that's, I think a lot of us tend to feel like we're not enough because we can always strive for more. Like this is one of those things that there's always something that could be better.
Yes. And I don't know, like that's a thing with women as much too, but like the competitiveness and males, it's really, really high, and they really are like hyper focused on that.
Yeah, exactly. And like for a man too, I think it's very difficult when something gets threatened. Like part of their belonging or their acceptance or their value in society, if it's been reinforced over time as being an athlete, let's say, and or achieving in that way, that's if that gets threatened, it's like they don't know maybe who they are, how they feel, or what their value and worth is, because no one's taught them to see it in other things, which is really unfortunate. Because you hear like people get called like a dumb jock, or you're just good for your athletics. But many of these men bring so much more to the table, and they're incredibly intelligent. They're very disciplined. They have so many skills outside of sports, which I don't mean to take this in another direction, but just wanted to add this opinion.
Yeah.
I think it would be incredibly valuable in sports programs throughout high school and even college, and wonderfully if done in a professional setting. I think it's a little less needed there, but I think it would be great because a lot of these people didn't get it in middle school, high school, college. But anyway, I think it would be really beneficial if in any sports program, the athletes are equipped to identify the strengths that come with being an athlete, with being a team player, or with being an individual sport, or pursuing any sport in general. If they can actually see the benefits to this outside of goal achievement within the sport, I think they would be more strength empowered and actually see how it can reflect or support them in other things in their life, where they're like, oh, I'm actually a really empathetic person, because every time my teammates struggle with something, I encourage them because I know what it's like. I've been there. You'll hear athletes say that, but then you ask the man if he thinks he's empathetic, he says no. It's like, well, you are. So we need to encourage or teach people how to see and apply a strength from one area to another, I think, for men and women.
Yeah, I definitely totally agree. I think that would be so awesome to see more of that. Oh my God.
This
yeah.
is so fun. We're just going off.
I know, because like, you know what? I'm really, really passionate about like men for some reason, and like providing, I don't know, like an outlet for them to express more of their, doing such an amazing job on that. And then even on your podcast too, like you're bringing in, you know, an element of that as well on there. So that's super cool. Now who normally is like your target audience? Is it mainly competitors like off season with the people that you work with?
That's such a great question. And honestly, in the beginning, it was competitors in their improvement season mainly, but now I have almost a 50-50 split between prep and improvement season. And I work with a lot of non-competitors too. Like I do coaching for a complete lifestyle coaching company and weight loss coaching company. And then I guest coach for various teams in the industry too that do lifestyle and competition, even a rock climbing team, believe it or not. But my personal niche is generally competitors in any season or phase, whether that's prep, improvement season, or kind of taking a hiatus, or not even sure if they want to compete. I've had some new competitors as well who are, I just want to get this food relationship and body image sorted before I compete. And I really admire those who do that.
Yeah, because that's kind of like what I did too. You know, it was like I wanted to compete, but I was like, I don't want to do it unless I feel like I have a good hand on my mental health first on that regard, because I didn't want to get into like that really, really dark side, you know. So yeah, that definitely is really cool. And then also like so you said you typically help like both people. Do you see a difference at all as far as like when people are in their off season or improvement season compared to like being in prep? Is there a huge difference?
The main difference I find is that people in prep feel a lot more pressure of a timeline. Generally, maybe they've picked a show or they know around when they want to compete, whereas people in their improvement season have a bit more flexibility with their timeline. The other thing I notice is people in their improvement season tend to come to me after they've already suffered from not doing a lot of the mental work that could have been done in prep. And what I mean by that is like they've already maybe rebounded, or they've fallen into binge eating patterns, or they're restricting quite a bit and they're not finding comfort in post-show weight gain, or They're judging themselves, criticizing their body. Maybe they don't know what's next for them in competing. So they're kind of in a more of a I'm recovering phase, whereas people in prep are like, I know that if I don't get this under control, I'm not getting the most out of the program that I'm following, and I really need to, because I've got a show in 7 weeks, or I have a show in like 15 weeks, or I want to compete this season and it's important to me. So I would say those are like, that's like the number one difference.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And also, like, how has your evolution in your own journey, how has that been? Because I'm sure, most likely you might even still struggle and have like those bad days.
100%. I have bad days. Yes. It was funny. I was just on another podcast sharing how she was like, well, do you still struggle with body image ever? I'm like, yes. If you can find someone who's immune to the struggle, give them my job. You know what I'm saying? It's very rare that you'll find a competitor or an athlete or someone in the fitness industry or someone who's focused on making physique changes who doesn't have a bad body image day. Most general population do, because body image is not just how we perceive we look, it's also how we feel in our body. It's how we perceive others perceive us. So usually anyone in any identity of any sort is going to perceive themselves in a particular way, and it can cause complications some days. So I definitely still struggle with that sometimes. But the difference is between me now and the old me, now I know how to deal with it so much better, and I have tools at my disposal. I know what works for me. I have, luckily with the education, I can kind of see things from that perspective too. And with food relationship, there's always something new in this sport and in this lifestyle, which I'm sure you can relate to. Like, you're always striving for something new, something different, because your body's evolving. So you might get in your groove, but then a little thing could come up, or a little thing could challenge you, and it might bring up something you didn't previously address or know about. So like a recent example is I recently did a gut protocol, and I was like, oh, wow, I haven't followed a strict meal plan in a very long time. This is bringing up different relationship with food aspects that I haven't considered in a very long time, or even had to. It was no problem because I knew what I needed to do for it, but it definitely like, okay, this is something new or something that I haven't experienced in a while. So I have my days still, and there's sometimes self-doubt or questioning the journey and what's next, and am I going to be big enough? Am I going to be lean enough? Am I going to be what the judges want? Like, those things come up for sure, but the amount of time and energy it takes up of mine is so slim now compared to a past version of myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the honesty. And something that you bring up, I've seen on it, like on your Instagram, is how, the social media world we live in is not necessarily an accurate presentation of like normalcy. And, it's like the attention one gets on social media, when someone's leaner, like reinforces that's, like that's better, despite how unnatural that kind of is fully to sustain. And or like the posing even next to like a different girl, and it's very hard to see the variables, emotions, and to get tapped into their all these things that they're not really, it's not allowed, quote unquote. So yeah, that's why I like this topic right now. Now, if someone struggles or has struggled with like emotional eating, how does one go about like wanting to make a change in health, but maybe even feeling stuck to kind of like the fear of emotional eating being sort of like this strong will that takes over them? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So generally, like when it's, let me clarify first. You're saying like when it feels like a really strong urge to eat for emotional, maybe coping.
Yes.
Okay. So for them to want to change, first they'll generally identify that it's a problem, or someone else will. But it's difficult to want to encourage or empower change in someone if they haven't yet identified that, because it is so comforting or helpful or beneficial. A lot of our maladaptive coping skills, whether it's food or otherwise, serve such a strong purpose in our life that to actually say, I no longer want to participate in this, it's like our brain's like, yes, you do. you don't want to run from this yet because it's bringing something of value to your life. It's giving you peace of mind or comfort or safety. If you no longer have that, what are you going to fall on? What are you going to utilize? Which brings me to, how do we then address it? Have other things that will give you a similar effect, and do it proactively so you can teach your brain that it's something you can utilize outside of food. In other words, like maybe you constantly have the urge to eat off your plan as soon as you get home from work. It's been a busy day, you're really stressful. And then the moment you walk in the door, you're like grabbing the snacks. You're also maybe a 7 out of 10 of hunger on a hunger scale. So you're in a really vulnerable position. And it's a really big stress reliever that you've just consistently done over and over again. So it's also a habit. So now we're working to break a coping skill, a habit, and a physical need. So the urge is going to be really, really strong in a situation like this. So we have to like dissect that situation and say, what is it that I'm looking for when I'm turning to the food? So maybe it's stress relief, or maybe it's freedom because you've been busy at work all day, you haven't had a moment to yourself. It's obviously you got to control the hunger in some way, so you're eating. And then there's that habitual part. So now we look at it and say, okay, we know that we're looking for, let's say it's freedom or peace of mind or relief. What else can we do when we get home from work or right before we go home that will give us freedom, peace of mind, or relief? Create a list. Look at that list. The list should include things that can be done in a small amount of time or maybe require a bit more time. Having a few options is beneficial because then you can see where it can fit in. Then open your calendar and decide, okay, if every day I'm home at 4 and this happens, then every day at 3:50 in my car, I'm going to have one of my snacks that I prepped or packed with me. That's satisfying, and not just satisfying as in like it satiates you on a hunger level, but you enjoy the taste, the senses, the textures, all that. And then also, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to call a friend who brings me a sense of freedom because we always laugh together and that's really fun. Or I'm going to watch this video that puts me in a relaxed state of mind because it's very calming, or it's like a design video and they're cleaning the house and it's really satisfying if you're into that. But you set yourself up with these skills and then you plan for it. And then the last thing, if you're making like longer ones or more demanding ones, we want to be proactive. Maybe it's not just that you're getting home from work, but we swim upstream and we realize you hate your job. So what do we need to do to start setting you up to be in a better job so you're not just running the same track of behavior over and over again or needing that escape? Why we even need it in the first place? So it's not just maybe having stress coping mechanisms in place, but it's boundaries, or it's a new position, or it's education. So we can also kind of look at it big picture that way too. So it's not just about overcoming the urge in the moment with like an interruption to the pattern and a new coping skill, but it's also swim upstream and determine what's actually leading me to do this over and over and over again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely important. And you made some really excellent points, because it's like you said, you're driving up and you're really kind of sorting through the different layers that's going on and stuff. So that's great. And what about like, what would you say for like on the opposite end? And let's just say that it's an anxious person that's like scared to eat because they're constantly worried that like, if I eat an extra, gram of this, like I'm gonna like blow and get too big, and like all my progress is gonna go down the hill. And like how would one address that?
That could be done probably in a few different ways. Like one thing is I would look at it from just a random physical aspect, like what's your meal timing like? Are you actually choosing foods that are nourishing, satiating, satisfying nutritional needs? Because that could be having something to do with it. But what I'm hearing more is there's a fear of eating out of fear of like weight gain or fat gain or ruining progress in some way. So if that's the case, then we need to identify like what's contributed to that story, because the story is like food equals loss of progress. So then we might say, what else can food provide to my body? What are like the benefits of choosing to eat that I haven't identified? So maybe that's performance, maybe that's focus, maybe that's presence with family, because you're not just sitting there thinking about how hungry you are. So we could take the time to rewrite the story between food equals ruined progress to food equals nourishment, support, benefits, XYZ in my life. So that's kind of like when we're changing a fear, we're looking at it from an anxiety perspective, And to address the anxiety, we want to be able to say, like, what's the current story being told? And then we also want to look at the past experiences or maybe others' experiences that are contributing to that story. So we would say something like, what did I experience in the past that led to that outcome? And then what were the variables involved? And then if someone else kind of instilled that story in you, you would ask similar questions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's definitely good. I can definitely like dive more into that, but oh my gosh. Now I do want to, because like our time is kind of already, coming to an end here, but like I wanted to have a moment for you to kind of share a little bit more about like all the services that you offer or any upcoming goals that you may have.
Oh, that's nice of you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I guess personal goals is I'm in improvement season myself, and I'm trying to build as much muscle as possible to bring it next year to the stage. And that's like a personal bodybuilding goal. From a business perspective, like I'm continuing to expand my team and the mission and the message and like how many people we're reaching with it, which has been a really beautiful thing. So I have a very systemized business, but just systemizing it even more to bring a really great experience, not just for clients, but also people who come into the, I guess you could say, the mix of the community. And just expanding on the community this year has been really important. I've been doing a lot of interviews with clients, sharing their stories, shining a light on them because they're so important to me. And it's just incredible what they've been able to achieve. And I know it will inspire others to take action, and not even just from a perspective of hiring me, but like from a perspective of doing something for themselves to benefit them and support their longevity in any fitness goal, knowing that you do not have to give up your fitness goals to have peace with food and your body. It is just, I don't believe it. I don't subscribe to that. So I want to empower more people to see that. So I want to contribute to more teams, more coaches. Luckily, that's been happening. A lot more teams have been bringing me on to do workshops or coach their clients, which is cool, or referring people to me. So I'm grateful for that. And I want to do some more events. Last year was like a whole tour. I did like an event every month. I don't foresee that necessarily happening this year. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm going to sit down and kind of get some events scheduled. But for anyone who's been inspired listening and kind of just wants guidance on what to do or how to address these things, I have tons of free resources. Like I have a full 8-day free food relationship coaching program, free post-show blues coaching program if that's something you're struggling with, a competitor card deck, which you don't even have to be a competitor to use. It gives you like mental health, journal prompts, action steps, things you can use, even affirmations. I do a blog almost every day, like my Instagram and my website. All of that's at celestial.fit. So if you guys want access to that, go ahead and start there. If you are looking to just do work with me directly, I have a 5-week food relationship program that's very popular. Most people generally do that with me. I have an 8-week do-it-yourself or a joint mentorship option with the 8-week post-show blues program. And then I have my on-demand mindset coaching platform for competitors, which is like the Netflix for competitors who want hands-on support at their fingertips for mental demands through the sport. Unfortunately, there's nothing like it out there, but fortunately for me, I was able to create it, and it's awesome, and I love it. And I would highly recommend you guys check it out. It's only $9.99 a month right now. So definitely do that. All of that, like I said, is on my website. So I won't blab about all the ways you can work with me, but go to celestial.fit or just hit me up on Instagram, celestial_fit. Tell me what you're struggling with. If I can help you, I'll send you a resource, whether I have it created or I have one for you, or I will find one for you, or I will send you to someone who can help you if I can't.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. And just a few quick, like random questions. I guess I'm really interested to know what your why is when it comes to competing.
Ooh, girl, that question is awesome. It's evolved so much in time.
Yeah, I bet.
It started very differently, but to make it short and sweet, it's to help other people see that they can do this and build more than just a body. That's the mission, that's the message, and my why. Like everything I do is to fulfill my values of freedom, impact, and love. And competing checks all those boxes, brings so much to my life. It lets me have a platform even more. I don't think I need it to get the message out, but it gives me even more of a platform that I thoroughly enjoy promoting the message of build more than just a body, and the community, which has been really developing and created since 2018 when I launched the podcast, like that's been incredible for me and really inspires me to keep going. Plus it's so personally challenging. It helps me to continuously up level and grow and prove to myself what I'm capable of. And I can get all that outside of competing, but I love competing. So I choose that as my method for the madness right now.
Okay, awesome. And then how many competitions have you done? And for anyone that doesn't know, you competed in bikini, correct?
Yes. So I do NPC bikini and I've done 13 shows.
Wow, I didn't know you did that many.
I know. Yeah, I started in 2015 and then I did like 5 shows between 2017 and 2018. And then in 2020, I did 3 shows. And then 2022, I did 4 shows.
Wow, that's awesome. And what would you say has been like I guess, I don't know what's the question I want to ask as far as like some of the feedback that you've gotten, and then have you like, is that what has drove kind of like your off seasons by any chance?
Exactly that. Yeah, like so much of my improvement season has always been driven by feedback, and my feedback has consistently been that I'm too small. And funny because when you like compare 2020 to 2022, that was my longest improvement season and I had so much growth. Like it inspires me so much for this improvement season because I'm under even better guidance. I'm in an even better place, like mentally and physically. Like my improvement season in 2020 to 2022, like that 2021 time period was like so difficult for personal reasons, but like seeing that progress made even through adversity, I'm like, wow, imagine this season, it'll be awesome. But it's just right now the goal is to grow the shoulders. They kept telling me my legs are really right where they need to be, and I have to be careful not to get too big in the lower body because I was starting to look wellness. They were saying in some of my early shows, as I got leaner, they said that less, but they were saying there's an imbalance. So I'm really like, I've been doing upper body. Like right now I'm only training 4 days a week, which is going to change probably back to 5 soon. But of the 4, for perspective, I'm doing like 3 upper body days. And for lower body, I'm only really doing glutes. So yeah, I'm still trying to get more dimension on my glutes. So that's been really the feedback is I look young, I'm small, and I need to put on the size and get a bit more of that wow factor.
Yeah, definitely a lot of work that has to go into that, but that's great. And also, so what would you say is like one of your favorite meals to enjoy that's like not related to like anything healthy or whatever, just something that you enjoy?
Ooh, chips and salsa.
Really? Chips and salsa? Yeah.
I would say chips and salsa, macaroni and cheese, and then my favorite cake I've ever had in my life. I'm more of a cookie girl, but this cake like lives in my memories forever. It's from Fogo de Chao. It was a brigadeiro cake, and it was amazing.
Oh, really? Yum. I love cake.
And then,
yeah. And what is something also, lastly, that you enjoy that's not related, I guess, to like fitness and maybe like your work?
That's always so funny because I'm like, yeah, what is life outside of those things? I really enjoy art. Hiking is probably top of my list, but some people say that fits in with the fitness, but I love hiking, traveling. I really enjoy art. I used to be a really good artist. Now I'm not, but I still enjoy it. And then just because I got out of practice. And then I like, just to throw this one out there, I really like shooting. And then when I get into baking, I enjoy it, but I like shooting as in guns. It's a fascinating thing to me.
Yeah.
It's not something I got to do a ton of or have done. I mean, I've done a decent amount, but something I'd like to be better at. And then pickleball recently has been of interest to me. So I think I like cleaning and organizing a lot, like interior design.
Oh yeah, nice. All right, that sounds good. I like all those. You know what I've heard through a lot of the um guest interviews lately is the hiking. Like that hiking is a thing.
It's awesome. Oh my gosh, there's something about it. I've always loved it. I think it's amazing and it's so rewarding. Where do you live?
I live in Illinois. It's like 60 miles away from Chicago.
Oh yeah, so you're not hiking.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not hiking.
You don't see mountains. Yeah, I used to go to Illinois a lot, but if you ever get the chance to come out to Arizona, I'd be happy to show you some stuff. It's amazing here.
Yeah, I definitely would. I definitely want to go there. So awesome. I'm glad to hear that everything is going well for you, and definitely look forward to, seeing what other content, you put out on your social medias, and just, have all the information on the show notes. And Celeste, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it so much. So
Me too. Thank you for inviting me on and being so kind and supportive over the years as well.
yes, of course. All right. Well, have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.